Have you ever scrolled through social media and thought, wow, if I had that much money, all my problems would disappear? It's a common fantasy, right? But what if I told you that for some of the world's most successful people, hitting the jackpot financially was just the prelude to their biggest battles? Today, we're diving deep into the untold stories of millionaires who faced devastating personal crises and didn't just survive. They came back stronger, smarter, and with a whole new perspective on what true wealth really means. This isn't about glamorizing struggle, it's about revealing the incredible resilience of the human spirit when pushed to the absolute limit. Let's start with a name you definitely know, Walt Disney. The man who created the happiest place on earth had a life that was far from a fairy tale. By the late 1920s, Walt had a hit character, Oswald the Lucky Rabbit. He thought he was on top of the world. He went to his distributor in New York to negotiate a better contract, but was hit with a brutal reality check. Not only did the distributor, Charles Mintz, refuse his terms, but he had secretly poached most of Walt's animators, and due to a contract loophole, he owned the rights to Oswald. Walt was left with almost nothing. On the long, lonely train ride back to California, he was heartbroken and betrayed. He could have given up. Many would have. But on that very train ride, sketching on a piece of paper, he created a new character, a mouse. Initially named Mortimer, his wife Lillian suggested a friendlier name, Mickey. This monumental crisis didn't break him. It forced him to create the very foundation of the Disney empire. It taught him a harsh lesson about owning his creations, a principle that would define his business for decades to come. Now let's fast forward to the modern era of tech titans. Think about Steve Jobs. His story is legendary. He co-founded Apple in a garage and built it into a revolutionary company. But in 1985, after a power struggle with the board of directors and the CEO he himself had hired, John Scully, Jobs was unceremoniously fired from his own company. Imagine the humiliation. He was 30 years old, a public figure, and suddenly an outcast from the world he created. He later said, "I didn't see it then, but it turned out that getting fired from Apple was the best thing that could have ever happened to me." Why? Because it forced him to start over. He founded Next, a computer company, and Pixar Animation Studios. This wilderness period allowed him to innovate freely, without the constraints of a huge corporation. And when Apple was struggling a decade later, who did they turn to? They bought Next and brought Steve Jobs back. His return wasn't just a comeback, it was a resurrection. He came back with the vision and technology that would lead to the iMac, iPod, iPhone, and iPad, transforming Apple into the most valuable company in the world. His ousting was a professional death, but it led to a creative rebirth that changed the entire tech landscape. But crises aren't always professional. Sometimes they hit much closer to home, in the one place you're supposed to feel safe, your health. Take Oprah Winfrey. For decades, she has been one of the most powerful and influential people on the planet. But her journey has been marked by profound personal struggles. Before she was a billionaire media mogul, she endured a traumatic childhood. And even after achieving massive success, she faced a very public and grueling battle with her weight and thyroid issues. For years, her body was a topic of national conversation. She'd lose weight, gain it back, and the cycle would repeat, all under the harsh glare of the public eye. It was a deeply personal health crisis playing out on a global stage. Many people would have retreated from the spotlight. But Oprah did the opposite. She used her platform to talk about it openly and honestly. She shared her vulnerability, her frustration, and her journey toward understanding that health isn't just a number on a scale. It's about mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being. By confronting her health crisis so publicly, she destigmatized the struggle for millions and built an even deeper connection with her audience. Her crisis became a source of shared strength, turning her personal pain into a powerful, unifying message. And what about when a crisis is a scandal that threatens to tear down everything you've built? Consider Martha Stewart. In the early 2000s, she was the undisputed queen of domestic perfection. Her name was a brand synonymous with taste, class, and flawless living. Then, in 2004, she was convicted of charges related to an insider trading investigation. The media frenzy was intense. The woman who taught America how to live the good life was sentenced to 5 months in federal prison. Her company's stock plummeted, and many declared her career over. It was a spectacular fall from grace. But Martha Stewart's story didn't end there. Inside prison, she reportedly taught yoga and helped fellow inmates with their business plans. When she was released, she didn't hide. She immediately began one of the most remarkable comebacks in business history. She launched new TV shows, including one with Snoop Dogg, wrote new books, and embraced new media, becoming a surprisingly savvy and hilarious personality on social media. She didn't try to erase her past. Instead, she incorporated it into her narrative of resilience. She proved that her brand wasn't about being perfect. It was about being persistent, adaptable, and utterly unstoppable. The scandal could have been her ruin, but instead, it revealed the steel spine beneath the polished exterior. These stories aren't just fascinating tales about the rich and famous. They're powerful lessons for all of us. Walt Disney's betrayal teaches us that our greatest creations can be born from our deepest disappointments. Steve Jobs' firing shows that sometimes being forced to start over is the only way to reach your true potential. Oprah Winfrey's health battle reminds us that vulnerability is a superpower, and that true wealth is well-being. And Martha Stewart's comeback proves that your reputation is not defined by your fall, but by how you get back up. The common thread here is not money. Money didn't protect them from betrayal, humiliation, illness, or public shame. In fact, in some ways, it amplified their crises. The common thread is a mindset. It's the refusal to be defined by a single event. It's the ability to look at a catastrophic failure and see a hidden opportunity. It is the strength to take the rubble of a collapsed life and use it as the foundation for something new, something stronger. They all faced a moment where they had to choose: be a victim of their circumstances or become the architect of their comeback. Each one chose to build, so the next time you're facing a crisis in your own life, whether it's big or small, professional or personal, remember these stories. Remember that a setback is not a sentence. It can be a setup for something greater. The pressure of a crisis can either crush you or forge you into something stronger, more resilient, and more authentic than you were before. The choice, as these millionaires discovered, is always yours. Thank you so much for watching. If this video resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more stories about the human side of success. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Which of these stories inspired you the most? See you in the next video.